We thank Hashem that we're able to learn. Because of our learning, we should have a basic mikdash immediately. It should be for Shleima. Chilnas ben Sarah and David ben Menachad Lester. From Fall ben Sarah Shran Shalevi ben Miriam Edel and Sarah Basnuni. Starting on Daf Chav Daled. Chav Daled Amid Aleph. If you have a traditional Gemara, it's 2 lines up from the wide lines. Kol kera sheina b'shaschimam in a kera. Yeah. We mentioned before in the name of Shmuel that anytime a person tears his clothes in mourning, but it wasn't at the time of the passing, it's not considered tearing. There was no mitzvah in that. There was nothing. The problem is the following statement. It says, Shmuel. One time, this is Shmuel himself who said this. He said that the tearing has to be at the time of the passing. It's called shaschimam, the time of the intensity, the heat. But Shmuel said, they told to Shmuel, Nach nafshei de Rav, that Rav passed away. We're getting a lot of historical pieces here. Shmuel and Rav were contemporaries. They both lived in Bavel. Shmuel was there first, but Rav may have been older. So, because Rav was in Eretz Yisrael, and then he kind of came to Bavel. They told Shmuel, Nach nafshei de Rav, that Rav passed away. Kor alei treis armani. He tore 12 garments in mourning. Amar, and then he said, Azal Gavra Dav Mistafina Minei. The man that I was afraid of has passed. Afraid of him because of questions. So the commentary says. Well, what we're seeing here is that he's tearing, even though it's not at the time of passing. It was just what they told him later. That's what the Gemara is asking. They told Rabbi Yochanan that Rabbi Chanina passed away. Rabbi Chanina was a student of Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. Karle Tleisar, Itztali Milsa. He tore 13 garments of wool. Amar Razel Gavra Dav Mistafinimne says a person that I was afraid of has passed. Well, that's a question on Shmuel. Shmuel says that the tearing of clothing is only at the time of passing, and here they're tearing when they hear about it. Says Shani Rabbanan the Kivin Kol Shaita Mitkre Shmatayo Kshaschimam Dami. No, when it comes to the rabbis, then whenever you hear about it, it's the time of intensity. Why? Because they're always mentioning their names. So it's as if they're passing right at that moment. Yeah. Amalei Ravin Bar Ada Rava. Ravin Bar Ada tells Rava, Amar Talmidcha Rav Amram. Your student Rav Amram says, Tanya, that it's taught in a brisa. Aval Kol Shiva Kari Lefanov. The whole week of Shiva, the Aval has the tear in front of him. If he needs to change his clothes, which he's allowed to do, but he has to tear again. Wasn't supposed to wear a certain type of pressed clothing and new clothing, but other clothing he could wear. But he has to tear again. B'Shabbos kari lacharov. On Shabbos, he puts the tear behind. It's not in the front. I guess it was a type of gown that you could switch, turn it around. And if he wants to change the clothes, then he's allowed to change vena kare, but he doesn't tear it. So we have a question now, because we're saying that if he changes the clothes during the week, he tears it again. According to Shmuel, we said before, you don't have to tear. You only tear b'shaschimam, only at the time of passing. Here he's tearing it when he changes his clothes. That's a question. Okay, so the Gemara says, Kitani bekvayid aviv imai. He wasn't tearing again because of the mitzvah of tearing. He was tearing just out of respect for the parent. It was a father or mother, so he tears again. People should see that it's torn. It's probably more not the action, but the effect, just what it appears, the appearance of it. Yeah. Yeah, because what happened was the Brisa, Ravin Bar Ada tells Rava that your student Rav Amram quotes a Brisa. And in this Brisa, it says that if you change the clothes, if a person changes his clothes, he has to tear again. So we said that Brisa is referring to. Yeah. Oisan Kurain Misachen Ayin Misachen. Those tears that are done, that are Shalei B'Shaschimam, maybe it means just out of respect, are you allowed to resew them? So that's a machlekes. Regarding the other tears, a regular tear of the halacha of that was the mitzvah of tearing was done. Then we had a discussion before that after a certain amount of time, you're allowed to stitch it, but not really resew it. We had for a certain morning, you were never allowed to resew it, right? If it was for a parent. So what about these types of tears that are not the real mitzvah of tearing? So Pligi Ba'avua de Rabbaishia Bar Kapara. Rabbaishia's father has an opinion, and Bar Kapara has an opinion. Bar Kapara was a student of Rebbe. And Rabbaishia is also a student of Rebbe. This is his father. So Charamre Masachen Macharam Masachen. One of them said you could resew it. The other one said you can't. Tistayim Davud Rabbaishia Damar Ein Masachen. Let it be settled. Let's try to prove that it's the father of Rabbi Shia that says you can't resew it. Why? The Rabbi Shia in Mesachen, because Rabbi Shia says in Mesachen. It must be when there's a machlekes, his father with Bar Kapara, its father and son would have the same opinion. Why? Because Miman Shmiele. Who told Rabbi Shia? Where did he hear it from? That in Mesachen that you're not allowed to resew it. Lav me'avoa. Is it not that he heard it from his father? It must be he heard it from his father. And so his father's the one, when in the argument with Bar Kapara, he must have that side, that you're not allowed to resew it. Gemara says, Loi, that's no proof. Why? Because his father sent him to yeshiva. And in yeshiva, he heard from his Rosh Yeshiva, Bar Kapara. And Bar Kapara, Rabbi Shmielei. He heard from Bar Kapara, Ein Mesachen. Avua de Rabbi Shia. He holds Mesachen that you're allowed to resew it, possibly. Amar Rava. Rava says, Aval Matayel B'unkali B'teich Besei. An Aval in his house can go around. It's probably on Shabbos with a unkali. The unkali we said before was like an undershirt, but over here I think it's referring to his torn garment. Maybe what it means is, I see in the Rabbi Gershon, it means the torn garment. But in the dictionary, unkali meant like an undershirt. Abayash k'chila Rabbi Yosef de Paris le sudra reisha v'asal vas bebesi. Abaya sees Rabbi Yosef that he has spread on his head a cloth. That was the way a mourner would behave, and that was on Shabbos, and he's going in his house. Amalei. So Abaya tells to his teacher Rabbi Yosef, "Lav savale mari in avelis b'Shabbos. Don't you hold that there's no avelis on Shabbos? Why are you wearing that?" Amalei hachem Rabbi Yochanan dvar shebetzin noyeg. There's no avelis in outside, but in my house, you can behave like that. That's what we mentioned before. It was a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel. That was Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. That dvarim shebetzina he does have. Okay, now we go back to the Mishnah, where we had a discussion about which holidays break the Avelis and what's Shavuos. Is Shavuos considered a holiday that it breaks Avelis? Rabbi Lezer Eimer, Mishacharav Beis Hamikdash Atzeres K'Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says that Shavuos is just like Shabbos. It means it doesn't break the Avelis. It's just a one-day holiday. Ram Gamliel said that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there's an etc. here, so I'm filling it in. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are a holiday. Taisus over here mentions that really that Rabbi Gamliel's opinion, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion holds that Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all of those are considered holidays. And then there were the sages that said that Rosh Hashanah, yes, Shavuos, no, something. What was the sage's opinion? The Chachamim Maimrim. Like a divisa, like a divisa. Atzeres is a holiday. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur is like Shabbos. Okay. So Amar Rav Gidl Bar Menashe. Rav Gidl Bar Menashe says Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel, halachic Ram Gamliel. The halachic Ram Gamliel, who says that Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, all of them are like holidays, and they stop the Avelos. They're counted each like 7 days. They stop the Shiva. Okay. We have a statement from Rav Gidl Bar Menashe who the halacha is like. However, some say that it wasn't in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. It was on a different thing. It was about a different thing, which we're about to learn. Tosfos asks, why do I need Rav Gidl Bar Menashe at all? What's Rabbi Gamliel saying? That Avelos ends when Yom Tov comes, including Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. I have a statement earlier that halacha k'divrei mekel b'avel. I always follow the lenient opinion. So what's the extra statement here that we're going to follow this lenient opinion? We always follow the lenient opinion. So Tosfos says that there could be a chumrah that comes from Rabbi Gamliel as well. And we're following Rabbi Gamliel, even though it may not be the lenient opinion. He says like this, that if the burial took place before dark and he wasn't able to sit Shiva, or let's say the non-Jews buried him on Yom Tov. So if it would be a holiday, which that's what we're saying, so that doesn't count as one of the days. But if it's Shabbos, that counts as one of the days of Shiva. So because he's saying,
no, not for
Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. So because he's saying that it's like a holiday, then it doesn't count, and the whole Shiva starts afterwards. That's a chumrah. So it comes out that even though we're passing like Rabbi Gamliel, we still have a stringency. Now I always thought that they had to start the Avelos before Shabbos also. I didn't realize that if they would do a burial on Friday afternoon and they don't have a chance to sit Shiva, that the Shiva starts anyway. I didn't realize that, but I guess that's from Tosfos. That's what's coming out. I guess when it said Oila, we were learning that the Shiva started before, and you count it as one of the days of Shiva. But no, it's coming out that it's actually, even if they didn't sit for an hour, it would still be counted.
Yeah. So Friday.
Okay.
Shabbos.
So what is the statement of Rav Gidl Bar Menashe according to this other opinion? It says on the following, on this. If there's a child that passes away, a baby, so if the baby is under 30 days old, so he's carried out, not in a coffin, just carried.
Oh.
And at the funeral, you don't need a minyan. The burial. So who would go? So it says, well, one woman can go with two men. Now, when it comes to yichud, the laws of yichud, two men protect each other, right? The laws of yichud are more lenient if there's two men than if there's only one man with two women. So,
right.
So buried with one woman and two men, that's acceptable. But not two women and one man, that's not acceptable.
that the way it is for in Yichud also?
Yeah,
It's
usually
also
two men is more protected. It's more the laws are much more lenient. Oh yeah, it doesn't tell us who these people are, if they're relatives. Right, right, right. Yeah, I think today the Chevra Kadisha would just take it and without any sort of procession or ceremony or anything. Right. Just sign a check in the oh, here. How old was that? Was that under 30 days? Show me up good things. No, they try to sell a tombstone. Right. You'll see what this Gemara is going to be interesting on that point. Abishal says, Af nashim. Abishal says, this the machlekes here is the grief, how strong the grief is for a child that's under 30 days old. So the first opinion says the laws of Yichud apply. There's no exception because this is a time of grief. Bashal says no, there is an exception. This is a sad event, and this is an exception to the laws of Yichud. People they're so involved in the mourning that they won't have thoughts about the two women that are there, the one man and the two women. Okay. Then it goes on, it says, they don't have the shura. The shura is the row of the mourners, that the row of the consolers where the mourner walks between. You don't do that because it was a child. Also, there was something that they would say in the street. You don't say that. And you also they don't sit Shiva. There's no Nicham Avelim. Yeah. Ben Shleishim Yom. What happens if it's 30 days old? So it's already a child that survived the first 30 days. So Yetzi B'Dluskama, he already needs to go in a coffin. Yeah, in the dictionary, it sent me to Gluskama. It switched it from Deluskama to Gluskama. Is that what it says there?
Is that what it's
Deluskama.
Yeah. So
Yeah, in the gesture, it sent me to another word, to Gluskama, with a gimel, which means a chest or a coffin. Rabbi Yudaimer Loi Deluskamani tells Bekasif only tells Bagapayim. Not the type of coffin that's carried on the shoulders, but the type of coffin that's carried in the arms. Va'im Demalav Beshura, but at this point they do already do consolation, the rows of comforters. They do sit shiva, and they do have birkas avelim, which was the prayer that they said in the street. Once it's a child of 12 months, gets carried out on a bed. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, hu ben shana ve'varv keben shtayim, hu ben shtayim ve'varv keben shana yetz b'mita. Rabbi Kiva says, well, it's only if there's something more mature about this child. Either the child is actually 2 years old, even if he's underdeveloped, or if he's overdeveloped, his limbs look like he's 2 years old, even though he's only 1 year old. That would also be carried down on a bed. Yeah. Apparently, they would use a bed like they do in Israel now. They don't. In America, they have a coffin. There's no you don't see anything. In Israel, you see just like a sheet over a stretcher.
I wonder if they still have someone who needs to shomer the body also under 30 days too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What's the term for that?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. In my smicha days, when I got smicha, we had to learn Hilchos Avelos. Yeah. It was in Australia on my Fight 11. He said, the minhag is not to learn Hilchos Avelos. You don't just learn Hilchos Avelos.
New work experience.
Yeah. But because Rabbanim today have so many shilas in Hilchos Avelos, so he asked Rebellia Fisher, then it was the Rosh Kollel and Ger, he gave us smicha. He asked him, he said that, yeah, they should learn Hilchos Avelos. So then we heard later from one of the Rabbanim, he says, Hilchos Avelos, you can't learn from the Shulchan Aruch. That's what we did. We learned it from the Shulchan Aruch. So you can't learn it from the Shulchan Aruch. There's so many shilas that you can't follow the Shulchan Aruch. The funeral home doesn't let you. The thing, there's so many. You have to know the background to be able to say, well, at least I can rely on a Rimagash, Shitas Rambam. You got to get all the background to, at least I know there's a few opinions. One of them will fit. Okay. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Eimer, Hayetzi b'mita Rabbi Matzivim alav. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that if someone's carried out on a bed, the word matziv is like a strange word. What matziv over here, at least the Rabbeinu Gershon says that it means the people are saddened. But matziv is like bright. It's a funny word. It's a funny translation or the funny usage of this word. Like matziv means to shine, and here it means to be sad. I don't know. So any yetzi b'mita, if he doesn't go out in a bed, ein rabbi matzivim alav, then the people are not saddened. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure why that's. Is it a like a euphemistic way of saying sad? Matziv, like it's like saginar. Maybe that's what it is.
If the corn has a like sahov, like yellow, and then somehow it's like red. The person's grieving, the face turns red.
Oh,
I don't know how they got from yellow to red, but
like what?
I don't know how they got from yellow to red. But it says sahov, possibly related to the color sahov, which in modern Hebrew means yellow, but in the Gemara can also refer to a more reddish color. The meaning of the word here is to make one's face redden with emotion, either with grief or anger.
I thought it meant bright.
Mm-hmm.
And then it, I don't know. Okay. They're guessing and I'm guessing. Okay, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Eimer, Nikkel Rabbim is asking me, talking about the child. If the child was someone that the community knew, how would the community know a child? Because he was already running outside. He was coming to shul. He was coming, he was running around. He was leaving the house. Yeah. So then Rabbi is asking me, then they're involved with him, which probably means that they comfort. If he's not known because he was always at home, he never came out, then they don't get involved and they don't do the comforting. Mahim behesped. What about a eulogy? Rabbi Meir b'shem Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Aniyim b'nei shalosh ashirim b'nei chamesh. A eulogy is done. It depends on the family. If the family is poor, then the eulogy is done for a child that's 3 years old. If it's a wealthy family, then the eulogy is done for a child that's 5 years old. The reason for this is that there's more grief. There's more mourning. There's more of a loss for a poor family because that's all they have. All they have is their family, is their children. A wealthy family doesn't have the same loss for the child.
Sure. Whatever.
Yeah. I wouldn't have no one would have guessed that this is saying. If the Gemara didn't say this, we wouldn't have.
If a loss is a loss.
Right. Rabbi Yehuda Imer Mishmai. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. That was Rabbi Meir in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. It's interesting because Rabbi Meir lost children. Remember, on Shabbos he came home. His two children. There was another one. I thought it was two. We had Rabbi Shmuel also lost a child. I remember where it was recently. We saw this. Rabbi Shmuel was sitting Shiva or something.
How did Rabbi Meir use
The story the Gemara gives us is that Rabbi Meir came home and his wife tells him, she doesn't tell him anything. It was Shabbos afternoon. After Shabbos, she says, if someone has lent me something and has come to take it back, should I give it back to him?
Okay.
And he said, of course. So then she takes him to the room and she shows him that the children passed away. Yeah.
That's Rabbi Shmuel, we read on Tisha B'Av, right?
Oh. Yeah. That was the son and his daughter that passed away.
Yeah.
That died. They were in the room. They were going to mate them.
That's captured by the Romans.
Yeah. Yeah, in the Kinnis we read that. No, but we had recently something from Rabbi Shmuel where the Gemara was relating how he did something when he was mourning for his child.
Rabbi Kiva.
We had Rabbi Akiva. I thought we had Rabbi Shmuel also. Okay. Oh. Okay, whatever. Can't look right now. So now we have Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. He says, Aniyim is b'nei chamesh. That's when it's 5-year-olds. That's when he did the eulogy. Ashirim is b'nei sheish. B'nei zakenim ke b'nei aniyim. If it's if the parents are senior, older parents, and they have a child, so that child would have the same. If the child chas v'shalom passes away, they would have the similar grief to a poor family. Amar Rav Gidl bar Menashe, Amar Rav halachik Rabbi Yehuda sham mishum Rabbi Shmuel. This was a very long discussion, just to tell me the point that Rav Gidl bar Menashe says the halacha is like a certain opinion. We started off saying that Rav Gidl bar Menashe says the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel about Shavuos, about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. The Gemara gives me this whole long thing that says that some say that Rabbi Gidl bar Yishmael says that the halacha is like Rabbi Shmuel. All right. Dorosh Rabbanani bar Sasson. Yeah. A Pischa de Bay Nisia. At the entranceway. Where did the Sassoon family get their last name? Probably from this, something like this. At the entranceway to the Bein Nisia. Bein Nisia means the Reish Galus. No, probably it means in Eretz Yisrael. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres. No, the
House of the Nasi.
House of the Nasi. So he says one day before Shavuos, Ve'atzeres, and then Shavuos. Harikan Arba, so that's 14 days. Shamar Rabami V'ikbid. Rabami hears what he's saying, he gets upset. Amar Ata Didehi. He's saying this in his own name. This is his teaching. It's not his teaching. To Rabbi Eliezer bar Amar Rabbi it's Rabbi Lazar in the name of Rabbi Shia. Okay, we'll see soon what Rabbi Lazar in the name of Rabbi Shia says. But basically his point is that if a Yom Tov breaks the Shiva, that means that the 7 days has passed. We're up to day 8. And then Yom Tov is counted like 7 days. Well, Yom Tov is usually 7 days, so that's fine. But here, Shavuos is considered like 7 days. It's an as if. So that would be another 7 days. So that's 14 days of the shleishim, right? 16 days more, and that the shleishim's over. And it was really only 2 days. Darash Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Akila the Reish Galusa. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha taught at the entranceway of the Reish Galusa. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres. I'm not sure why this has to be at the entranceways of the houses, the same teaching. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres ve'Atzeres Reikan Aba'asa. He says the same thing. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Shamar Rav Shesha Sikbid. Rav Shesha hears, he gets upset. Amarata Didehi. Is this his own teaching? Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi Shia. It's Rabbi Lazar, name of Rabbi Shia. Amar Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi Shia, because Rabbi Lazar says name of Rabbi Shia. Minayin la'atzeres yesh l'tashlumin kol shiva. How do we know that Shavuos you can bring the sacrifices for another 7 days after Shavuos until the 13th of Sivan? During the time of the Beis Hamikdash, people would want to bring their sacrifices. You can't all bring it on the holiday. So Shenemar b'chag hamatzos u'b'chag Shavuos. So what's the bach do? B'chag HaSukkos, he adds it.
So, just to like get things. So, a chag makes the mourning period stop.
Right.
But Shabbos just counts as a day, but it continues afterwards.
Right.
But Shavuos is what again? Is that?
So that was a machlekes. We're following the opinion that Shavuos is considered a holiday. No, it's a 1-day holiday in Israel. So ma chag hamatzos yesh tashlumin kol shiva, af chag haShavuos yesh tashlumin kol shiva. Just like chag hamatzos, you have 7 days to bring the sacrifices. So to Shavuos you have 7 days to bring the sacrifices. That's what he's saying when he says it's Rabbi Lazar, name of Rabbi Shia, that the holiday gives you 7 days. Okay. Yeah. Both of them are getting so so upset that they didn't say it in the name of this. I mean, it wasn't mamish exactly the same thing. There was an extrapolation on this, that just like over there, it's considered 7 days, because so too when it comes to mourning, it wasn't, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shia didn't actually say it about the Avelos. They're taking it to mean Avel. And then who was it? The first one, Rabami, and then Rav Sheshes. They say, well, it's a statement that was said earlier. Ad berei Rav Papa or Rav Avya Sava v'darash. Rav Papa gives permission to Rav Avya Savia to teach, and he taught the following: Yom echad lefnei Rosh Hashanah v'Rosh Hashanah reikan arba'asa. 1 day before Rosh Hashanah, and then Rosh Hashanah is considered 14 days.
Day before and a day, it's 14 days.
Yeah. Well, the day before means that the Shiva had to start.
Right.
So once the Shiva starts, then the holiday breaks it, and then the holiday is counted. Amar Ravina. Yeah, I remember I was learning Hilchos Avelos, and I went to visit in Australia. I went to visit my brother-in-law that was then living there, my sister. Anyway, I went to shul with him. In the shul, there was someone sitting Shiva. So he tells me I forget around when it was. Anyway, I said, oh, I'm learning. Oh, so the Avelos is going to start. I'm like made a quick calculation, like how long that, because of the holidays. And he says, you have no feelings. Everything is like dry halacha. You just like just working out the calculations. Okay. No, this, like sometimes you get into it, becomes the halacha becomes very matter of fact, It's a gesund. Amar Ravina Hilkach Yom Echad Lefnei Achag v'Chag Hashmini Yom Echad Lefnei Achag v'Chag Hashmini Shalai Harikan Esrim v'Echad Yom. When it comes to Sukkot, you get 21 days all in the holiday. Why? Because
Rosh Hashanah to Shmini Atzeret?
No, just Sukkot.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't mention Yom Kippur, which that's a discussion that I think I saw in Tosfos, but the idea is like this: Avela starts before the holiday, before Sukkot. Then Sukkot comes, so that's already 14 days, and then you have Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres is considered a holiday on its own, so that's another 7 days. So that's 21 days.
You mean the whole, like all of Chol Hamoed?
All of Chol Hamoed included.
Like 8
So
days.
So when the person's done the holiday, it was only a total of 8 or 9 days, and it's considered 21 days for the shleishim.
How
Right.
how can someone like mourn someone for just like a day and then that's it? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I don't know psychologically how this
Yeah.
works. Like what the holiday does and all of that, how it affects.
That was the Rebbe's talk the other day, the Saturday night. It's success in time. If you're in the moment and you put total concentration on the Veilus, and when the next moment is holiday, you have to switch out. You put total concentration on Simcha. That's how it works.
It must be that the holiday replaces the morning. Somehow it's like whatever the morning was supposed to accomplish psychologically, or
what if someone had like a
neshama.
wedding, maybe like a week or so, like a couple days after
Right.
someone passed away?
At the wedding, it doesn't do what the morning does.
Time between the death and burial. The faith starts to begin to
Right.
burial, so
Mhm.
it seems the Torah requires us to be strong enough to continue on.
Right.
The grief of the parent starts with death. So it's telling us in certain situations, hold off.
Right. Right.
Psychologically, what happens requires us to be.
Right.
In Washington, the Rav's daughter was to be married, and the mother passed away right before the wedding was to be. I've ever been with. And I think they do the wedding. It didn't interfere with the wedding. They didn't cancel the wedding.
Yeah.
If the wedding was prepared already, I think they do the wedding. Yeah. Okay, so Ravina Ikla Surah de Pras. Ravina goes to Surah that's on the Euphrates. Amalei Rav Chaviva Misur de Pras Ravina. Rav Chaviva of Surah de Pras says to Ravina, Amar Mar Yemech Lefnei Rosh Hashanah V'Hashanah Rikan Arba Asar. Ravina, he tells him, did you say that the day before Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah is considered 14 days? Amalei Ana Mistabrak Ram Gamliel Hudamina. I said that Rabbi Gamliel would hold that. I don't necessarily hold that. He's not telling him. He's saying Rabbi Gamliel would say that Rosh Hashanah is considered a holiday. Okay. We have a new Mishnah. Mishnah is very unclear. I mean, the words of the Mishnah are very clear, but what it's referring to is unclear. Ein kairin, v'lei chaltzin, v'lei mavrin, ela krevav shalmeis, vein mavrin el al mitzvah zakufa. Yeah, it's unclear if the Mishnah is talking about on Chol HaMoed or if it's talking about any time. But let's say it's talking about any time. So it would read like this: that no one tears the clothing, they don't uncover the shoulder, and they don't feed the meal. A mourner has to be fed, has to be served the meal. He doesn't prepare his own meal, at least the first meal. That's how it's done. Ela krevav shalmeis. Only the close relatives. The tearing, the meal, the uncovering the shoulders, only the close relatives. Bein mavrin el al mitzvah zakufa. And you don't mavrin. You don't feed only on a bed that's upright. And this is explained because usually the mourners are sitting low down to the ground, or mita's kufufa, upside down bed. Over here, because the meal is going to be eaten together with the other people, but we just said we don't feed the other people, but I guess they're sitting together by that meal, so you don't have them sit separately, that the mourners are sitting low down to the ground when they're eating. You don't do that. So therefore they're allowed to, by that meal, they're allowed to sit together on a regular chair, in a regular bed. Yeah. what happens when we learned before about a husband and wife, that the husband behaves as a mourner in front of her. Remember that? We learned that. So what happens at a shiva house if like one of them is sitting shiva? Do they both? Would he sit on the low stool, or does he sit on a regular chair? Or she? Does she sit on the low? If only one of them is mourning. How does that work? One of them is mourning for a parent, and the husband and wife,
Right.
husband or wife, whatever. If she's sitting together with him, would she sit on? She's not in shiva, so she sits on a chair.
She could wear makeup, didn't we say, like if her in-laws passed away?
Do we say that she could or that she shouldn't?
Probably brought it up.
Yeah, we brought it up. But I thought it said that in front of him, she behaves like a mourner. I thought that said that.
No, I thought it's permissible because she shouldn't be like unattractive.
Uh-huh. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So it says, Rashay lias kecheles, lias bekeses, ela kaifa mitasa v'nehegasi mayavelas. I thought that's what it meant. I don't know what nehegasi mayavelas means. What does it mean, nehegasi mayavelas? Does it mean that she actually sits on that stool? Or? Okay. I went last night to be Menachem Avosant, so I'm thinking about Jonathan Pollard's wife passed away. So her sister lives here. Okay. The Gemara has a question now. We said that the tearing is only done for a close relative. The Gemara says, what about if it's a chacham? Everyone tears. All right. Didn't we have a brisa something before? It says, V'atanya chacham shmeisa kol kreivav. Everyone is his relative. The Gemara says, Kol kreivav sal kadaitach. It doesn't mean everyone is his relative. Ela kol kikreivav. Hakol kairim alav. Everyone tears because of the chacham. The Mishnah says that it's only the close relatives. Now we're saying that it's others as well. Everyone takes the shoulder off. And everyone is fed in the street, the meal that was traditionally held outside, that mourner's meal. Okay, so the Gemara answers that that's not what the Mishnah is referring to. The Mishnah was talking about someone that's not a chacham. Aha. Chacham, the laws would be different. Gemara says, "V'yadam kasheru chiv mechayiv l'mikra." If he's an upright person, then they have to tear anyway. The tiny, because we have a brisa. What are you telling me? It's only by a sage that everyone tears. It's even by a regular person. The brisa says, "Mipnei ma'abanav v'bneisav shel adam meisim k'shem katanim kadei sheyivka v'yisabel adam kasher." Gemara is a strange statement. The Gemara is going to challenge this. What does this mean? But it says, why would sons or daughters of a person pass away when they're young, so that he should cry over Adam Kasher? The Gemara is not understanding this, that the child is the Adam Kasher. The Gemara is understanding this, that we're punishing him before, so that later on he should do something. Like, it's like taking let's make sure that the person behaves properly later. So, Yivka v'yisabel arvuna kashakal minei. To cry and to mourn, they take a collateral. It's the opposite. It's because it's a punishment, because he didn't cry and mourn over a upright person, which he should have. A person that mourns over an Adam Kasher, all the sins are forgiven because of the honor that he gave. Okay, so what are we saying? That even for a regular person, a person should tear his clothes. And here we said in the Mishnah that it's only for a close relative. The Gemara answers, the lav Adam Kasher. Now this is what you call a daichek, where you squeeze the Mishnah into a scenario that like you limit it to the extent where it's not talking about a chacham. It's not talking about an Adam Kasher. It's only talking about You make it like it's almost like not relevant, the whole Mishnah. So the Gemara says, 1 second, if it's not an Adam kosher, then if a person is there at the time of the passing, he has to tear anyway, even if it's not an Adam kosher, if he's there at the moment of passing. Tanya? Adam kosher is a upright person.
Is that a chacham?
No.
No.
So we went from, okay, the Mishnah is not talking about a chacham because then more than relatives have to tear.
Right.
If it's an Adam kosher, we said can't be an Adam kosher either because more than relatives are supposed to tear. So we said it's not an Adam kosher. So it's like a not an upright person. So we said, well, if a person's there at the time of passing, he has to tear anyway. The Tanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Haimed al Ames, Shas Yitzias Neshama Chayiv L'Kroya. Someone is by the time of passing, he has to tear. This is similar to a Sefer Torah that's burnt, that a person has to tear his clothes. Why? Every neshama is like a Torah. The Torah is called Ner Mitzvah Torah. It's called light, and neshama is called Ner. Ner Likim Nishmas Adam. So, yeah. So the Gemara answers like Hasam Mishas Yitzias Neshama. Now this is what we're left with. We're talking about that the Mishnah is talking about when he wasn't there at the time of passing. It's not an Adam kosher, and it's not at the time of passing.
So an Adam kosher, if we're not there, person not there, you would still have to tear.
Yeah, it's not the halacha. So unless maybe when the Gemara says now, like Hasam, really, if it would say Ella, the like Hasam, then it would be retracting the whole thing. It doesn't say Ella, unless it's another gersa. You see, once we say this, the like Hasam Shas Yitzias Neshama, then we could really go back and say that maybe the what we said before about the Adam Kasher was also only B'Shas Yitzias Neshama. Maybe we can do that. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what I have here from the if second. Yeah. So Masnisin the Katani and Karen Lechaltzim with the lesser Lechacham Leadam Kashav Lekaya Shasitias Neshama. Aval Chacham Kern Chaltzin the Mavin. Adam Kasha Nami Chayiv Lekraya. Yeah, it sounds like it was a person supposed to tear, according to this. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. It's clearly not what we do, but that's what seems to be the conclusion. Okay. Kinach nafshe de Rav Safra. When Rav Safra passed away, like Rabban Naleh, the yeshiva didn't tear. Amri, like Amri, so he wasn't our teacher. Amalu Abaya says to them, Mitanya Harav Shemes. Does it say the teacher that passed away? It says Chacham Shemes Tanya. It says just the sage that passes away. Okay. Then also Kol Yaima Shmaitzi Bepum Be Midrasha. His words were always quoted in the study hall. So even if you say we're not his students, but we learned his teachings. Savar, the rabbis thought, my dahava. Okay, so we missed the chance. It's too late. Okay.
So you have like what, just a day?
At the time of passing, or at least and I'm not sure how long at the time of passing. Amalu Abaya, so Abaya says, Tanina, It's taught in a brisa. Chacham kolzman sha'iskim behesped chayav m'kraya. As long as they're Isaac and the Hesped, Tanin is probably a Mishnah. As long as they're Isaac and the Hesped, they have to tear. So several Mikral Altas, they wanted to tear right away. Amalu Abaya tells them, Tanya Chacham Kvayde Bespede. His honor is by the Hesped, by the eulogy. That's when they should tear. So they keep making decisions, and Abaya keeps correcting them. Kinoch Nafshi de Rav Huna. When Rav Huna passed away, we're going to have a whole thing here about Rav Huna. They wanted to put a Sefer Torah on the coffin, on the bed. And that would symbolize that Rav Huna and the Sefer Torah, Rav Huna fulfilled everything that it says in the Sefer Torah.
Was this a sefer that needed to be buried?
I don't think so. I think they were just going to carry it out like that. I don't know if they were going to bury it. I don't know. A good Sefer Torah. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, I see, not necessarily buried, but just on the bed.
Yeah.
Taking it there.
Out of to show honor for Rav Huna that there was a Sefer Torah together with him.
I was imagining.
Right.
That's what it says.
Sefer Torah is not Makabel Tuma, I guess.
Should be Makabel Tama. No. But would it? Why? But shouldn't it be Makabel Tama safer? I don't know. There's definitely a rabbinic Tama on it, right? Amalu Rav Chizda Milsa de Bechaye le Svir le Hashta Lekam le Avidle. Rav Chizda says Rav Huna never would have let this when he was alive. He would never sit on a chair that had a Sefer Torah on it. And now you're going to have him laying on a bed that has a Sefer Torah on it. You can't do this. Dam Rav Tachlifa says, Rav Huna one time wanted to sit down on a bed. I saw this. And there was a Sefer Torah on it. So Kaf Kada, Sefer Torah. He turned over a jug and he put the Sefer Torah on the jug, upside down jug that could hold it. So Alma Kasavra, Saleshav al Gabi Mitr, Sefer Torah Munachle, he's not let us sit on it. So now they're taking the bed out, and it was too wide. It couldn't fit through the door. So several Lishashuli Derech Gagan. So they were going to take it through the roof to lower it down. Amul Rav Chizda says, no, we learned from Rav Huna that the honor is to take him out through the door. So they were going to put him on a different bed that would fit through. This bed was too wide. So Amalu Rav Chizda his honor is to take him out on the first bed that he's on, not to switch bed to bed. Dam Rav Yehuda Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, how do you know that you're not supposed to switch beds? Shenemar v'yarkivu es arin elikim el egla chadasha. This was when the Pelishtim captured the aron, and then they sent it back. So they sent it back on a wagon. This is a little bit problematic because that wagon that they sent back, it says that they were oxen that pulled it and it just traveled on its own.
Or is that when it fell off and someone?
So afterwards, when they moved it again, when they moved it again, it started to fall. And then who was it? I forget. Uzziah. Who was it that stretched out? Someone stretched out to touch it and he passed away so it shouldn't fall. So they put it on the wagon. And what was the problem? They were supposed to carry it, I think. They weren't supposed to put it on a wagon.
Since then, they've had multiple arcs, I think. One for
Yeah.
war and the other for spirituality.
So over there, it says that they used the first, a new wagon, and I guess they didn't change the wagon. It's unclear because it sounds like they used the wagon that it was sent on from the Pelishtim. The problem is that the pasuk says that they took the wood and they burnt it, and on that they slaughtered the cows that came with it, and they burnt the cow with that. So it can't be that first wagon. Anyway.
Right, so that I think you don't have to carry it.
Right.
This whole thing, you can't. Actually.
Right. It wasn't supposed to be on a wagon.
Right.
Yeah. Praise Bava Va'afkua. They broke the door and they brought him out through the door. I guess it means the door frame.
So they didn't change the.
They didn't change the
size.
bed. They didn't take him they took him out through the broken doorway. Pasach ala Rababa. Rababa opens up in a eulogy. Roy Haya Rabbeinu Shetishra of Shechina. The Shechina, our teacher was worthy that the Shechina should rest on him, Mela Shebavel Garmalei. But he lived in Bavel, so he wasn't able to, because the Shechina would only rest in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Maser Rav Nachman Bar Chizda, Rav Nachman, Rav Chizda's son. Yeah. Rav Chizda had two other sons that we know of, Mar Yenuka and Mar Keshisha. But here, I guess there's a third one. There's Rav Nachman. Ramila Rav Chanan Bar Chizda. Some say it was Rav Chanan Bar Chizda. He asked the question on the eulogy. He says, Haya Dvar Hashem El Yecheskel ben Buzia Kain Beretz Kastim. I think the first prophecy says that he was by the river. Hey, Tammuz, the 5th day of the 4th month. And he has a prophecy, and he's in the Kastim land, in Bavel. So Tafach le'avu b'sandle, his father hits him with his shoe. He says, Amalei lavamina lach l'titchud alma. Didn't I not tell you, stop bothering people with questions? Doesn't sound like a good education. But I guess he meant in middle of a eulogy. You're not supposed to, that's what he meant. He was giving a eulogy. You don't say, 1 second, I have a question on what you're saying. Let it go. So he explains to him, my haya, what does it mean, haya, that the word of God came to Yecheskel ben Buzi? Shahaya kvar, it came to him earlier. There's two pshatim over here in Rabbeinu Gershon. One is, the second pshat is that he had the prophecy earlier, and this is just when he was saying it over. He had it when he was in Israel. Other pshat is that haya means that it would only happen once, but the rest of the time it doesn't happen. That's explaining why Rav Huna couldn't have been couldn't get the Shechina, because the Shechina doesn't come in Bavel. But that was the only time. Kiaskul Hasam, when they made it to Eretz Yisrael, so Amrulei Rabami Rabasi, they told Ravami and Ravasi, Rav Huna Asi, Rav Huna is coming. Amru, they said, Kiavina Hasam Layavlan Lirashim Mine. Hashta Asinan Hacha, Asa Basrain. Hashta Asinan Hacha, Asa Basrain. When we were in Bavel, Ravami and Ravasi, we couldn't lift up our head in front of Rav Huna. He was so great. We were nothing compared to him. And now he's following us, yeah. Amrulei Arainaban, he said, no, it's a coffin that's coming. But Arainaba, Ravami and Ravasi Nafak. Ravami and Ravasi go out to greet it, and Rabbi Ela Rab Chanina lay Nafak. Rabbi Ela and Rab Chanina did not go. Ikadami Rabbi Ela Nafak, Rab Chanina lay Nafak. Some say Rabbi Ela went, Rab Chanina didn't go. The Nafak my time. What's the reason for those that went out for the funeral procession? The Tanya Arnaiver Makal Makam Aim Dan La Bashur Vam La Birch Savelim Tanchumi Avelim. That if a coffin goes from place to place, you're supposed to comfort them, say the prayer, and the lay Nafak my time. So what's the reason why those didn't go out? Says Tanya, because we have a price that says you don't do all of those things. Okay. Kumar says, well, I get the reason for each one, but you have a contradiction between brises. So kasha na adadi, contradictory brises. How do you resolve that? So the Gemara says like kasha. Kansha shilde kayemes, kan b'shem shilde kayemes. It depends if the body, if the spine is still intact. If it's still intact, then you're supposed to go out and behave as if it's a funeral. And if it's not intact, then you don't have to. Rav Huna shilda kayemes have it. Rav Huna's spine was intact. The loy nafak. So why didn't they go out? Those people. It says leisimokame. They didn't confirm that. It wasn't confirmed that it was intact. So they didn't go out. Amri hechen ninche. Where should we bury him? Where should we place him? So they said like this: Rav Huna ribitz Torah b'Yisrael, Rav Chia ribitz Torah b'Yisrael. Rav Huna taught Torah, he spread out Torah, and Rav Chia spread out Torah. Rav Chia is the student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the uncle of Rav. He was he collected the prices. It's a great passed away much earlier. They're going to bury him next to Reb Chia. Man Mayale, who's going to bring him in? Amalu Rav Chaga. Rav Chaga says, I'm going to bring him in. I would prepare my studies. In other words, like he would present his studies. When I was 18 years old, and I never saw a carry. So
it says never
experienced a mission. And I served Rav Huna. And I know his behavior. One time, this is quoted in Tanya. One time, his strap of tefillin turned over, and he fasted 40 fasts.
What do you mean turned over? Like you saw the back?
So the white on the strap of the tefillin. Yeah, it's probably the part that's over here. Yeah.
It's like you got black got upside down.
Yeah. So he's saying that because he's the student, he's going to be able to take him in to Reb Chia. So Ailei, he takes him in. Havigani Yehuda miyamine davua. So Reb Chia had two sons. He had Yehuda and Chizkiah. So Yehuda is laying on the right of Reb Chia. The Chizkiah is Smali, and Chizkiah is on the left. Amala Yehuda leChizkiah. This is wild stuff. He goes in, and Yehuda, the spirit, the neshama of Yehuda, tells to Chizkiah, "Kumi duchtach, get up. The kaim Rav Huna, because it's not respectful that Rav Huna is standing." Bahadi the kaim, as he's getting up, come bahadei amuda denura, a pillar of fire gets up. Chazi Rav Chaga Ivis, Rav Chaga sees this, he gets frightened. Zakvei la reina, he stands up the coffin like he's going to hide behind it. Benafak, and he goes out. Asa, and he went away. This that he was protected, that he didn't get punished, because he stood up the coffin of Rav Huna. Yeah, it doesn't say if that was like a zchus or if that was. In the Rabbeinu Chananel, he adds these words, and I don't understand what he's saying. B'haidelei mianish the Bei Reish Galusa, this at the house of the Reish Galusa didn't get punished. Mishum dezakef areina de Rav Huna. Zechusem megin eleim dehum the Bei Reish Galusa. The merit of Rav Huna protected them. Oh, it's telling me another story. Yeah, it's a whole other story. According to Rabbeinu Gershon, what's happening here is he stood up the iron of Rav Huna, and he stood behind it. He got protected from the pillar of fire. According to Rabbeinu Chananel, what it's saying is Rav Huna was so great. Rav Huna was associated with the house of the Reish Galusa. I don't remember where we had that, but he had some connection there. And you know why the Reish Galusa wasn't punished? Because he was because the merit of Rav Huna. That's what it's saying. The merit of Rav Huna protected the Reish Galusa. Okay. Kinach. I'm sorry, I'm skipping something. Okay. Kinach nafshi de Rav Chisda. When Rav Chisda passed away, Savala Suvi Sefer Torah Puri. They wanted to put a Sefer Torah on the bed. Amalu Rav Yitzchak says, Milsa de la Rebbe loy svirale anan nikmen avidle, something that the master didn't hold of, we're going to do for him. Savidle lemishal karayu. They also thought that they shouldn't stitch up the tears that they did. They tore their clothing for him. Not to stitch it up. No, we're allowed to stitch it up for the chacham. When Rabba Bar Huna and Rav Hamnuna passed away, they also bring them to Eretz Yisrael. They're going to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah, Kimato Agishra, when they came to a bridge, Kamu Gamle, so the camels that were holding each one stopped. Amalu Hutaya Maihai. So there was an Arab merchant there. He says, "What's going on? What's the holdup?" So Amalei Rabbanan, the Ka'avdi Yikra Dadi. It's the rabbis that are giving honor to one another. Maram or Marneil Beresha. Maram or Marneil Beresha. This one says, "Master, go first." This one says, "No, Master, you go first." Amar Dinahu. So the Arab mixes in like who deserves to go first. He says, "Dinahu the Rabba Bar Huna Leil Beresha." Rabba Bar Huna should go first. The explanation given why he said that was because Rav Huna, his father was also great. I don't know if that's where that's from, but that's what the explanation is given. Okay, Cholaf Gamle the Rabbi Bar Huna. So the camel of Rabbi Bar Huna goes first. Not their kachi v'shine du taya, but the teeth and the molars of that merchant fall out. He made a decision about that Rav Hamnuna shouldn't go first. So in Rav Hamnuna's honor, they fell out. Paschalahu Yenuka, this child says, I guess in as a eulogy, Geza Yashisha Malami Bavel, the trunk of the ancient, came up from Babylonia. The Imai Sefer Melchamas, and with him is the Book of Wars. It's referring to Rav Hamnuna. Kasuk Paid Huchbalu. That's these two bad birds coming to see like who passed away, but they've been doubled. Liris B'Shed V'Shever Abba B'Shinner, to see about the ruins and the brokenness that's come from Bavel. Shinner is Bavel. Katzaf Alaylama, Hashem is angry at this world. V'chamas mena nafshes, and he's stolen souls. He's taken souls. V'samach bem kekala, now kekala chadash, and he's rejoicing over a new bride, saying how Hashem is happy. Reichiv aravais, those that rides on the clouds, on the how do they translate aravais? Clouds. Sasva sameach v'bayil of nefesh naki v'tzadik, is gladdened and rejoices when a soul comes to him, and the soul of a tzaddik comes. That's the eulogy.
When we ride
Yeah.
on the clouds,
It means that, in short,
sky.
that we're suffering and God is happy. That's what it is. Kinach nafshei de Ravina. When Ravina passed away, Pasach Alahu Saftana, this eulogizer started. Tamarim hiniu reish al tzadik katamar. Palm trees, lower your heads because of the tzaddik that's compared to a palm tree. Okay, now I don't know what the next word is. I don't know if it's nasim or nashim. Nasim would mean like this. Nasim leilas kayamim. You should make the nights like days in eulogizing. Al mesim leilas kayamim, for someone that made his nights like days in Torah study. Or it may be the women used to like cry. So it's saying nashim leilas kayamim. Women, the night should be like this. I'm not sure how to read it. Is there a comment in the art scroll or something?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Funny, the Quran has in the Hebrew nasim, but the translation says women.
Oh,
It goes both ways.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's poetic, so it's hard to know like style, because Amalei Ravashi le Bar Kipuk. Ravashi says to Bar Kipuk, "Hu yaima mayamris." What are you going to say on that day? Now, Bar Kipuk was a eulogizer, and what are you going to say at the? I guess he's asking about his own eulogy. What are you going to say at my at the eulogy? Amalei Amina going to say, Imba Razim Nafla Shalheves. If a fire came out by the cedars, Mayasu Ezuve Kir. What should the grass say? Levyasan Bechaka Huala Mayasu Dage. If the Levyasan is caught by a hook, what should the other fish do? Rakak Benachal Shaitif Nafla Chaka Mayasa Megavim. Let me do that slow. Rakak, spit, is that spit? That gets washed in a stream. What is Chaka? What does it say in your comment? How do they translate it? Let me show you. Yeah.
Fish hook.
Oh, it's the gay rakak. Oh, that's you have to put a comma there. If the Levyasan was lifted by a hook, what should the tiny fish of the marsh do? Okay, now. Benachal shaitif nafla chaka. If a fish hook was cast into flowing water, mayasu megavim, what can the water of the puddles do? Okay. He's doing a comparison that what could we say to and how can anyone else compare to Rav Ashi? Amarlei Baravin. So Baravin tells to Bar Kipuk. This is a discussion. What the Baravin is another eulogizer. He tells to him, Chas v'shalom dechaka v'shalheves b'tzadike yamina. You're saying that the tzaddik is compared to a hook, a fish hook, and to a flame. Amay Amrit, what would you say? Says Amina, I would say, Bachu la'avelim v'lei la'aveda. Cry for the mourners, but not for the one that's lost. Shehila menucha v'anu la'anacha. Because it is at rest, but we just sigh. Okay. Chalashtaiti alayo. He felt bad about what they were saying. Right? He wasn't happy with this eulogy. The sapach karayu. What does that mean? He turned over he turned his feet around, I guess. Ahu yaima layasi la aspude. And that day they actually didn't come to eulogize. Behind the Damar Ravashi. So it can't be it's about his own eulogy. It must be about someone else. Behind the Damar Ravashi, this is what Ravashi says, Leibar Kipuk Chiletz, Leibar Ravin Chiletz. That Vesapich Karayu. Sapich Karayu means that these two eulogizers, their feet got twisted around. So they couldn't walk. They couldn't walk. So at that time, when it came time for the eulogy, so Bar Kipuk wasn't able to make it, and Baravin wasn't able to make it. Leibar Kipuk Chilitz, Leibar Baravin Chilitz. That means that they wouldn't be able to do chalitza. The two of them can't do chalitza. Chalitza is you have to take the shoe off his foot. And because their foot was turned around, there was some problem with doing chalitza. So, okay, that's what Rav Ashi meant. It was about Rav Ashi's his own eulogy. Okay, Rava Kiavasa Diglas, when Rava came to the Diglas is the Euphrates, Amar Le Baravin Kumei Milsa. So say something. Koiv Amar, he got up and he said, Boyu Rav Slishis B'mayim. The Jewish people are called thirds because we're Kainim Leviim Yisraelim. No, so this is when Rava. This must be. Is it? How does the translation? Is this when Rava passed away? So they told Baravin to speak, probably. So he says that the Israel has come to the water. Zechav v'rachim, te'inu me'acharecha. Remember and have compassion. We have strayed from you. Ke'isha mi'bayla, like a woman from her husband. Al taznichenu. Oh, te'inu me'acharecha ke'isha mi'bayla. We have strayed from you, a woman from her husband. Al taznichenu ka'is me'imara. Don't forsake us like the bitter waters, like as if we were a Saita woman. Don't forsake us like as if we were had to drink those waters. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Rav Ashi died.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you, Shakir.
Okay, tzlacha.
Have a good day.
Rabbi, so this week in the calendar is the Leviathan.